Raid episode 3 has been out for a couple days now, and at this point I think I've experienced everything the raid has to offer. I mean, I've beat the raid multiple times on regular difficulty, and I even beat it a couple times on veteran difficulty. And even on top of that, I've even done all the known side quests that there is to do. So right now I have a pretty good grasp of what this raid has to offer. And that's exactly why we're going to be doing this raid episode 3 full review. Now I think the best place to start with this review is none other than the gameplay of this raid. And for the most part, we're going to be looking over the different sections of this raid or the major gameplay points. But one thing I have to mention even before all of that is one gameplay feature that I'm so glad they added into this raid, and that is loadouts. Yes, loadouts are actually a thing. Now, I do wish that the loadouts, there was like a bit more into getting them than just going up to a box and interacting with it. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we do have loadouts and we could use a gun we actually want to use. But now let's get into the different sections of this gameplay. And the first one is none other than the elevator part of this raid. Now, to me, I really like this elevator part because it could really switch from being dumb fun or something that's actually serious. Because if you're just doing the raid normally and you're not worrying about anything else, you're just going to be able to just jump around and risk everything, because even if you die, you could easily be revived and stuff like that, and it could be real trolly fun, and that's something that I could appreciate out of this. But at the same time, since it is so easy to die, if you are playing on veteran difficulty where you only have 3 revives per section, or even more so if you're trying to do the side quest where if you die and bleed out, you're going to lose the USB forever, then that makes it a bit more of a challenge. And I kind of like how there's a little bit of contrast there based on whatever you're doing. Something that seemed like dumb fun is actually a challenge now. That's something I really appreciate about this elevator section of this raid. But as for the next major part of this raid, it has to be the number puzzle, the 15-digit number puzzle, that is. Now, personally, I like this puzzle. I wish the code was a bit shorter, maybe down to 10 or 9 digits would have been better, but at the end of the day, I do like it. And this may be because of the bias where I come from. Like, normally I play Call of Duty Zombies where they have, you know, giant puzzles, not really puzzles like this, but still puzzles nonetheless. So I do like puzzles in general, but I do get why someone wouldn't like this, especially if you don't have a well-coordinated team. This step could be dreadful. I do get that, but as for my experience, when I've had a well-coordinated team who everyone knew what they were doing, I like it. Like, I think it's some good fun. I like those adrenaline moments where like, oh, am I going to make it to the button in time or not? And then you do. It's just like some really cool stuff. Overall, I do like it, but I do wish the code was a bit shorter. But as for the next major gameplay point, I guess has to be the valve puzzle. It's not really a puzzle, but yeah, it's in that final submarine area, and at this point what you need to do is have 2 people at 2 different valves and then 1 player at a computer, and you're trying to get the 2 players at the valves to perfectly match where the light's glowing green on the computer, and they both have to hold it for a couple seconds as the player at the computer hits a button, and you have to do this twice. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, I don't like the step at all. Like, I don't hate it while I'm doing it, but it's just like, you know, it's just something that happens, which normally wouldn't be a problem if it was like towards the start or middle of the raid. But the fact that this is at the end of the raid where everything's supposed to be a bit more climactic, right? Like, this is supposed to be the big ending, right? And I'm just not really getting that feeling at all from this valve puzzle. I feel like the number puzzle would be better in this section by far. It would be a lot more fun than this valve puzzle, because it's not really even a puzzle, but still it's just something that is there, and I don't know, man, I'm just not a big fan of it. But this, of course, does lead us to the final section of this raid, and this is the point where you have to get a saw and cut through 3 different doors as you are being attacked by a ton of different enemies, which at the final door is actually going to also include 2 juggernauts. And for this step, like, again, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like it. Like, I just don't like these kind of steps. It's just pretty much like the first raid step. Like, it's almost identical to the final step of that first raid. You're just being attacked by a constant waves and waves of bots that get harder and harder. And I just need a bit more to my endings of these raids. Personally, I think the ending of the raid episode 2 was way better because it's not just the bots you're fighting, you're also running from this gas that's catching up to you. Like, that is something that's a bit more cool, feels a lot more climactic than just this, and that's what my major problem is with this ending. It just didn't feel like this was the end. In fact, I think everybody who has played this raid, when you got to that final door and the cutscene started, you were all thinking like me, wait, is that really the end? Like, honestly, I really didn't even think that was going to be the final step. I really didn't. Like, I thought there was going to be something more than that, and we are going to get into this final area where you have to do something crazy, right? But instead, it just ended, and to me, I really didn't like that all too much, and I just wish that they would just do a bit more epicness to the final step of these raids. Now, something I do have to mention is the side quest, because there is one side quest on this that I think is actually a ton of fun. It's a big step up compared to the one we got in raid episode 2. And if you guys haven't done it yet, then I actually have a video tutorial on it that's already up. You guys can check it out. It'll be linked on screen now, but regardless though, it's just a lot of fun because there's a lot of risk into all this, because there's a USB you have to pick up and 3 pieces of paper, and whoever's holding those, they cannot bleed out and you cannot get a game over, or you have to restart from scratch. You have to restart the raid in its entirety. And to me, I just love the challenge of that. Risking everything, not having to die, especially when there's so many points throughout this raid where it's very easy to die, whether it be the elevator step or even that red room step, which I'm gonna be honest, guys, I threw a couple times while I was doing the side quest with some teams. I jumped and fell into that freaking red room and blew up everybody and ruined the entire run. We had to start over from scratch, but regardless though, I do like that challenge of this. And this is something that I feel like raids had been missing for a while now, just that real threat of dying where you have to be really worried about, and that's something that I think I finally experienced while doing this side quest, and that's something I could really appreciate. Now for my favorite part of this raid, and by far this is the rewards. Like, I don't know how people aren't like really talking about these rewards. Like, rewards that we're getting from these raids, especially raid episode 3, are insane. Like, I've been asking for rewards like this from Call of Duty Zombies for years, and now we're just getting them in raid episode 3. Like, it's insane. Like, think about it. If you just beat the raid regularly, like just beat it once, you're going to get the Alex operator. That's really cool. It's a whole operator. You don't have to pay a cent for him. You get him just by beating the raid, and you could then use that operator in the other game modes and show off, hey, I beat the raid. And then on top of that, if you beat the veteran raid, you get the Galvanic animated camo, like a whole animated camo. That's what you get for beating the veteran raid. Like, that's so freaking cool. And you obviously could then bring this camo into the other game modes and show off, hey, look at this epic animated camo that I got, and no one else got it because I'm the only one here that's beat this veteran raid. Like, that to me is really, really cool. And even the side quest I talked about earlier, like, that also gives you a universal camo that could go on any guns. It's not as good by far as the Galvanic animated camo. It's just a regular Merc camo, which isn't that cool. I wish it was a bit cooler, but regardless, it's still cool that we are getting rewards like this. We're getting rewards for just clearing the raid. We're getting rewards for beating the raid on veteran difficulty, and we're even getting rewards for doing side quests. That's something we've never seen in COD Zombies that I've been dreaming of that they would do. Like, this is so freaking cool, and I absolutely love this so much. The rewards you get for completing the raids are so cool. The rewards are insane. Now, this of course brings us to the final verdict. What do I really think of this raid? How do I rate it? Well, for me right now, I'd have to give this raid a good 7 out of 10. It's a ton of fun to play through. If you guys haven't played it through yet, and you have 2 other people who are willing to play with you, then do it. It's a ton of fun. I really like it a lot. Now, I wouldn't buy the game if you don't have it specifically to do these raids. Like, I'm not going to go that far, but if you do have the game, then go ahead, run it through with some teammates. You'll have yourself a lot of fun. If you want a bit more challenge, hey, maybe run the veteran raid and get yourself that Galvanic camo, or even do the side quests. Like, those are also a ton of fun. Now, I really wanted to rate this raid higher than just a 7, but a couple things were holding me back. Obviously, the major problem I had with the ending of this raid, I wasn't a huge fan of it, as I said in the gameplay section, but also it still has that same problem that all the previous raids still had. It's just that lack of replayability after you get all the rewards. Like, after you have the rewards, why are you coming back to this raid? Like, there's no real reason to come back now. It's not something that I think many people will do. Now, no hating on the people who do come back to play these raids over and over again. I'm happy for you, you're having a ton of fun, but as for me, like, I just don't play these raids too much after they come out. Like, after the first week, I'm just not playing these raids really ever again. And that's something I think Infinity Ward really needs to work on. And I think there's a couple ideas out there, maybe adding in boss fights at the end, that could really help out that problem. But overall, those are my final thoughts on this raid. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. Do you guys agree with that rating 7 out of 10, or do you think it was too high, too low? Or what do you think about this raid as a whole? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, I would appreciate if you guys dropped a like, subscribe, bell, share, or any of that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever the heck it may be. And laters, guys.